Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Rugby Borough Council's Licensing Subcommittee. My name is Chris Cade and I'm the chair of the Licensing and Safety Committee. And today I'm chairing this meeting, which is for alcohol and regulated entertainment. So I'll start off with, shall we have some introductions? Could I ask the two councillors to introduce themselves, please?
Hi, I'm Belinda Garcia. I'm the councillor for the Revel and Binley Woods.
Hello, my name's Dale Keeling. I'm the councillor for Admirals and Corston.
Thank you. So that makes three of us as councillors on the committee. Could I now go to Rugby Borough Council officers, please? Introduce yourselves.
Good afternoon. My name is John McTurnan. I'm a licensing officer for Rugby Borough Council, here observing today's committee.
I'm Marion Allen, Senior Legal Advisor, clerking and advising the committee.
Hello, my name is Emma Payne. I'm the Trainee Licensing Officer.
Thank you. And could I have the guests, please? Perhaps without tripping over each other, perhaps you'd be kind enough to introduce yourself and let us know your role in today's proceedings.
Por favor, uno momento.
Good afternoon. Shall I go first? Good afternoon, Chair. I am John Gregory from Wright Hassell Solicitors, and I represent the applicant Wharton Hall Limited in this matter.
Thank you, John.
Have you seen these?
That was an additional one sheet, yeah.
Hi, I don't want to talk over anyone. We aren't hearing anyone else, so just to introduce us, I'm Felicity Marsh. This is my husband, Tom Marsh. We live on Main Street.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Guyat. I'm also a resident in Bourton and a local architect.
Thank you very much.
I'm Thomas Palmer. I'm the Finance Director for Country House Weddings Limited, owner of Bourton Hall Limited.
Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
I could hear someone very quietly saying, "Can you hear me?" Okay, well, I'll make a start on the agenda then. So on the agenda,
Chair.
Yes?
Chair, I'm conscious that a number of people have got microphones on, which is probably interfering with the quality of the call. My name is John Payne. Incidentally, I'm representing 4 of the objectors.
Sorry, what was your name?
John Payne, sir.
John Payne. Thank you very much. But yes, it would be good if people had their microphones switched off unless they're speaking. That would be most helpful and may well be contributing, as you say, to noise.
I've got my headphones on now. Can you hear me better?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly fine, yes.
Okay, I apologise for that. My name's Nick Bramer. I'm the Marketing Director and owner of Country House Weddings Limited, which in turn owns Wharton Hall Limited. Apologies for the technical issues.
Well, we seem to get a few technical issues every day, so we're getting rather used to it, but thank you anyway.
No problem.
Right, so I'll start on the agenda then. Part 1, public business. Declarations of interest. So for councillors to receive declarations of interest, Part A, for non-pecuniary interests as defined by the Council's Code of Conduct for Councillors. Do I have any declarations from fellow councillors?
No, thank you, Chair.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Item B, pecuniary interests as defined by the Council's Code of Conduct for Councillors.
No, thank you, Chair.
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And C, notice under section 106 of the Local Government Finance Act 1992, non-payment of community charge or council tax.
Noted, Chair.
Yes, noted.
Thank you. So I've got nothing to declare there. Right, we go on to item 2, which is an application for a new premises licence. And that application is made under the provisions of the Licensing Act 2003. The Council has a duty to promote the licensing objectives, including the prevention of crime and disorder. The Council's statement of licensing policy aims to promote the licensing objectives. And what I have here is that Borton Hall Limited have applied for a premises licence at Borton Hall, Main Street, Borton-on-Dunsmore, CV23 9QZ. And could the person who's representing them, who's seeking to gain a licence, please present their case?
Thank you, Chair. Just before I do that, I have had some preliminary discussion with the licensing officer, who has mentioned that there may be reason or an application to defer the hearing on the basis that parties would like more time to consider the noise assessment that was submitted yesterday. I don't know whether that is still the case, but perhaps before I make opening submissions, which are quite detailed, that could be clarified.
Okay, well, there's one other thing I would like clarified is that I'm given to understand that someone submitted the application who either was a director or wasn't the right director. Has that issue been resolved as to whether this is a valid application or not?
Well, Chair, there's simply no issue. The application has been submitted by Borton Hall Limited. By Mr. Palmer completed that application as finance director, and so he was authorised to do that by Mr. Bramer, who is owner and registered at Companies House as a director of the company. And Mr. Bramer's here to confirm that authority if you so require it. But plainly, sir, this is not a matter where there's any doubt in relation to the identity of the applicant, which is Borton Hall Limited.
Thank you. I appreciate you clarifying that. And returning to the point that you raised with me, in order for anyone to make any decision as to whether something needed to be deferred or whatever, we'd have to hear the initial situation. So I would be grateful if you could outline your application, please.
So that's absolutely fine. I will summarise, and what I've planned to do here is to make some opening points of clarification and deal with the representations that have been made in opening. So if you'd like me to do that now, I'm quite happy to do so. Is that the way you'd like me to proceed, sir?
That would be very helpful, and that sort of ticks the box while we're all here, sort of thing. So I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Certainly. Well, good afternoon, councillors. As I've said, my name is John Gregory from White Hassle Solicitors, representing Borton Hall Limited. They've already introduced themselves, but I'm accompanied by, or virtually accompanied by, Thomas Palmer and by Nick Bramer from the applicant. And firstly, as I've mentioned, Chair, that there are some points of clarification that I need to make. The first one's been dealt with, which is the identity of the applicant. Secondly, Chair, some queries have been raised in respect of the plan. In particular, as you will probably be aware, there's a list of criteria set out at Regulation 23 of the 2005 Premises Licence Regulations. And it's been pointed out that some of the items required by Regulation 23 were not shown or not shown clearly on the plan as initially submitted. That has now been rectified by the submission of further documents. And to be clear, councillors, you should have a copy of 3 documents which together form the plan for this application. And just so that you've got those, firstly, it was a plan titled Borton Hall, a wedding venue, showing the licensable areas edged green and annotated with a handwritten key. Secondly, there was a plan titled Borton Hall Fire Alarm Layout, which shows a series of broken red lines which mark the escape routes and main access and egress. And finally, a plan titled Ground Floor Fire Alarm Layout, which shows the location of the fire safety equipment.
Mr.
Now, to be
Gregory,
clear,
could I just stop you there for a moment? Emma, I don't have those documents available for me to see right now, and I'm not sure if my two colleagues as councillors have. I suspect the answer is no. Are you able to screen share these items?
Yes, Chair. So there's a plan in Appendix B of the report of the premises. And then, yes, I will ask John if he can screen share those further plans, if possible. John?
Chair, before that happens, can I just interject? I have put my hand up virtually and also physically. I'm conscious that a number of documents have been referred to here which we have not seen, including the acoustic report. The regulations on hearings are entirely clear that documents that are not provided before the hearing can only be provided at the hearing with the agreement of all of the parties. Obviously, we're in no position to be able to do that if we've not seen the document.
Thank you.
Well, Chair, my understanding was that these documents were submitted yesterday, and I apologise if Mr. Payne hasn't seen them, but my understanding was that these have been circulated to all parties.
Chair, that may have been the understanding, but that's not what's happened. I'm afraid we're in a position where we have no documents. We are therefore in that position.
So, Mrs. Marsh, were you indicating?
Yes, thank you. I was, because as we're speaking independently here, we haven't seen the documents. If they were submitted yesterday, there was no chance of them arriving with us.
Okay.
Chair, can I clarify?
If you would, Marion, thank you.
Yeah, and apologies to all of them. If I can give a sequence of events that happened in response to some comments made by, I think, yourself, Mr. Payne, in an email. The applicants provided further plans, but that was late last night because they were reacting to the information that we had given them. However, because the noise assessment had come in, was it yesterday? I think, Mr. Gregory, it came in and was forwarded on to us. That document is a very large document, as you can appreciate, and may or may not address some of the issues that have been raised by interested parties. Because of the length of that document, the Environmental Health Officer has already indicated that he needs more time to look at that document. That document was submitted as part of the planning conditions, but it fits in with, obviously, this application. The discussions that officers had was obviously the concerns of Mr. Gregory was that parties may need time to consider that document fully, and I'm sure, Mr. Payne, you will probably agree that it's quite a length. As you would expect, it is a full document, and for all the parties to be able to see that and see if it addresses their concerns, etc., etc. Because that document was possibly, was going to have to be considered, we thought it likely that parties would need time. And therefore, the likelihood is that we may be looking at an adjournment of this meeting, which we can do under the regulations to give people time to consider and fully take in the contents of that document. The plans that were submitted kindly by Mr. Gregory on his behalf, on behalf of the applicants, were done quite quickly, and it was thought that until we knew what was happening with this meeting today, those documents were not circulated because of time. So apologies for that, but I think you can appreciate that the position the council were in trying to get this meeting opened. I hope that clarifies the issue, and perhaps we need to consider whether or not this meeting goes forward, or whether or not we need to have time to consider the noise assessment.
Marion, thank you for your legal interruption there. It was useful as ever. And yes, I was minded in asking Mr. Gregory if he would start his presentation, that we may find ourselves in this situation. And to be honest, it's crystal clear to me that we are not ready to proceed today to make a decision. Clearly, it's important the council makes the right decision, whichever decision that might be. And so, therefore, I think that you make a perfectly good point that we should be adjourning today. But if we adjourn today, we need to make sure that whenever we go ahead, and you know, Christmas is coming, and things like that need to be considered, that we do have our skates on, and we do have things capable of being seen, understood, discussed, agreed or not, and confirmed. So I'm proposing that we should put this meeting back. I wouldn't expect it to go back more than 2 weeks, probably around 3 weeks, to give people the opportunity to have all the ducks in a row, as it were. Anyone have an opposite, Belinda?
Yes, I mean, I'll second that proposal, but I do think it's absolutely vital that this is done before December the 2nd, when potentially, should this application go through, that Boughton Hall would be allowed to trade from then. So really, I don't see why we couldn't do it in a week, because just in case anything else raises its head, that we can't postpone it again.
Well, certainly it sounds like we're singing from the same hymn sheet. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to contribute on the subject of us postponing? Mr. Payne.
Chair, if I could. Yes. Well, there is another option here, and I'm being slightly magnanimous in suggesting it, perhaps. This application, to be frank, is something of a mess. We've already heard of the slight issue about who signed the document. We're in a situation where we've got an acoustic report produced the day before the hearing. This is not a way to deal with an application. I would have expected to see such a report submitted with the application. We're also in a situation where there have been suggested negotiations going on that may or may not amend that application. That's not been made clear. So the other option that's available here is that the applicant takes the sensible approach, withdraws the application and starts again and does it properly.
Well, I mean, with respect, it's not a case where the applicant has ambushed the interested parties or the council with further information. There's clearly no requirement whatsoever for us to submit a noise assessment with the application. This was, in fact, Environmental Health said that they would impose a condition that prior to use of the premises, a noise assessment would be submitted. And actually, it would have been quite proper for us to withhold that noise assessment and submit it in discharge of the planning and licensing conditions. It was felt, however, that it would be in the interests of all parties, including the interested parties, local residents, if we disclosed that noise report prior to determination of this application. And it only came in yesterday. We sent it on as soon as it came in, and we spoke about potential need for deferral in order to allow parties the opportunity to consider it. And then that's what I mentioned in opening. Frankly, I thought that had been raised yesterday. It evidently wasn't, but we've got no issue with the short adjournment to allow all parties to consider that document.
Thank you, Mr. Grove. Thank you.
Just in terms of the length of the adjournment, Chair, my feeling is that 2 weeks is about right, but I clearly want to hear from others on that.
Councillor Garcia.
I was just going to say, yes, I think we need to draw a line under this. I'm not wanting to sit and listen to arguments between two solicitors, quite frankly. I think actually a week.
Sorry, I missed the last bit of what you were saying, Belinda.
I think actually a week would give everybody plenty of time to sort themselves out, and then in case anything else comes up, we have plenty of time to deal with it before December the 2nd, should we want this application to go ahead.
Mr. Marsh?
Can I ask how long these documents are, just so I know how long, if it's going to be a week, whether we have a reasonable time to read them.
So could somebody provide a point of clarification on that?
I think the noise report, Chair, is around 23 pages.
Certainly the one I got yesterday was. Okay, Councillor Keeling, if I'm proposing and Councillor Garcia is seconding, are you in agreement that we postpone this matter?
Chair, before that happens.
Yeah. So, yes, Chair, I'm happy for that and happy for the 2 week. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Payne.
Yes, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt. Could I just ask a question as to how long it was that it took the noise report to be produced? Because quite clearly, if there is a noise report that's taken 4 weeks to produce, those that are objecting should be allowed a similar period of time. That's only equitable and fair.
Just to clarify,
I think we've already agreed, haven't we? We're postponing this. I don't want to sit listening to this sort of argument. Are we saying a week, Chair, or are we saying a fortnight for postponement? Because actually we could meet the same time, couldn't we, in a week?
Well, I think Mr. Payne has a point that if there's a lot of stuff that needs reading, or sorry, was that Mr. Mark?
23 pages, isn't it?
23 pages. No, I've read that today. I'm happy to postpone a week.
I'll second that then.
Mr. Marsh, did you have another comment?
Well, yes, I was going to. It's quite feasible that one might well read 23 pages within a day. However, those of us who aren't committed all the time through our working day to this, and even, you know, in the evenings, weekends, I think 2 weeks is a more reasonable time frame because, frankly, you know, this was sprung on us. Other things have come up that we weren't expecting. We were expecting to go through today. Now we have these documents and we have to fit them into carrying out all the other activities that our lives generally.
Well, thank you for your observation. I'm sure you're aware that councillors also, were part-time volunteers.
Yes, of course.
We find ourselves in the same situation, but I think we're going to have an adjournment. We're going to have an adjournment for 1 week. That is the decision that I've made, and Councillor Garcia and Councillor Keeling have agreed with that decision. So I think, Marion, did you have anything you wanted to add?
The only thing I would ask is perhaps, obviously, we're looking at a week. We have to sort that out. The committee section will be sorting that out. Our Democratic Services section, they'll be in touch. But I would suggest to people, if they can, let us have availability. The Democratic Services, I'm sure, will do their best to accommodate us as they can. But if you could let us have availability to at least try and get that meeting sorted a week, possibly just over, that would be very, very helpful, I think. And also, if Mr. Gregory, on behalf of his clients, could submit the plans that he referred to, would that be possible?
Mr. Gregory?
Yes, that's possible.
Councillor Garcia?
Just for the sake of clarity, could we next time have the plans on the screen as we do in the planning committees, please?
I think that would be really helpful. Can we organise that, licensing colleagues?
Yeah, that's not a problem. I did have one plan ready, which is on Appendix B of the report, but it was only the single plan, which Mr. Gregory referred to with the outline of green for the one premises.
Yeah. OK, thank you very much, everybody. We're adjourned.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.